I had a little bit of a mini crash out at the end, and basically said that I don't feel that I should be the one to cover these stories. I haven't needed to replace my jerseys as much, but I certainly will be buying some next year because although it hasn't been announced, and I'm not going to give away anything, but the manufacturer who's making our kits is one of my favorites in the world. And Dan Beachall couldn't speak more highly of Jets. And in fact, he even said that Nathan has pretty much said to the Ukrainian Rugby League Federation, if there's a year that I'm not selected for Australia, I'll come over and play for Ukraine. Wow. Really, when you talk about guys like Reece Walsh, who you mentioned earlier, I don't know if England have an answer for him. It was an incredibly humbling experience. I mean, they reached out to me.
Hello everybody and welcome to the Rugby League Rookies Podcast with Expat Ollie. I'm Ollie, and every single episode I bring on a different NRL creator. Maybe it's not a creator sometimes, maybe it's a player, you never know what's going to happen. But anyway, this is the first episode of the series and we are joined by the wonderful, legendary Leaguie himself. The man, he's been on Broken Mark twice. He has a very, very good YouTube channel. He's also on Instagram and TikTok, and he even recently interviewed the head coach of the Ukraine Rugby League international team, which is absolutely incredible and something we'll definitely be talking a bit more about it later. Obviously, this video is mainly, this podcast video, whatever you want to call it, is mainly focused on international rugby league. Leaguie, any words you want to say before we get into this?
Well, thank you for having me. I'm very, very honoured to be the first guest on your podcast. Hopefully there's many, many more to come. And thank you for that introduction. I believe you used the phrase legendary, which is the first time I've ever been described as that. So thank you. I'm looking forward to getting into some good international chat today.
Okay, perfect. So the first thing we're going to be talking about today is the Pacific Championships. Obviously, it's happening right now. The final is coming up in, not this week, but the week after. Obviously, you, me, a bunch of others, a lot of people, and of all nations will definitely be going to this game because it will be an amazing one, and I'm excited to see who will be participating in it. But to start off, we'll be talking about the bowl, then followed by the cup. So for the guys who don't know, the bowl includes Papua New Guinea, Fiji, and the Cook Islands. We've seen Papua New Guinea and Fiji play the Cook Islands in round 1 and 2, which they've kind of absolutely destroyed them, to be honest. And now we go into the final round where we see Papua New Guinea take on Fiji to see who wins this year's Pacific Bowl. Now, Leaguie, obviously, you stream all this stuff on your channel. Well, you don't stream the game, but you stream the watch-alongs. You're very, very knowledgeable about all the smaller stuff, including the bowl. Do you have any predictions, or really, what's your thoughts going into this game?
Yeah, so just generally speaking, there's been a lot of people who are questioning the fact that there's not a final at the end of the road here for the Pacific Bowl teams. But to be honest, I don't mind that. I like the way that the structure is right now, where you get to see these teams play sort of more exhibition matches against each other. And I think they've been really, really good matches. You look at sort of Cook Islands. I refer to them as the perennial punching bags of Pacific Rugby League. They just lose all the time because they happen to be in a corner of the globe with like the rest of Rugby League's insanely good teams. But like them last week against the Papua New Guinea and Kumals, they were within 6 points on the final play of the game. They've been doing really, really well. I think they have the right to be very, very proud of what they've been able to achieve. You look at their game against Fiji. If you take out the opening 20 minutes, they actually won the game. So they've given, both Fiji and PNG a run for their money. Seeing Fiji and PNG come up against each other, I think they are two incredibly well-matched teams. There's NRL talent throughout both of them. But also when you look at some of the Super League talent, the likes of Lachlan Lamb for PNG, Edwin Apape, these are guys who I think we could see involved potentially with the Papua New Guinean Chiefs, Lamb especially. So these are guys where if you're an NRL fan, you're not necessarily interested in the international game, it's still worth watching because you're going to be seeing them in the NRL sometime soon.
Yeah, that's a very good point to make. I would also love to see in the future if we see, obviously, we are getting that Papua New Guinea Chiefs side coming in 2028, I believe. But I'd love to see a team, Tonga, Samoa, Fiji. I would love to see NRL clubs doing that, and obviously that's a whole different story of expansion with NRL clubs. But both teams have amazing, not the very best of players, but really good players, really solid players who are definitely NRL worthy or already are playing in the NRL. But yeah, this genuinely, I'm very excited for this game. I do have a real feeling that Papua New Guinea will probably get a win here. Obviously, we know they do have that very lucky home advantage where they've played, or every single game of this bowl has been played in Papua New Guinea, which is something that I find a bit weird to me, especially when we see Fiji, Cook Islands, not really related to Papua New Guinea at all, and is a good opportunity. Maybe give Cook Islands actually a home game. And obviously, they play in the World Cup qualifiers, which is against South Africa. Guess what? It's at Combank, so I feel like they should probably give a bit more opportunities to these smaller nations. But more back to the game, this will be a brilliant one to watch for all fans of rugby league. And yeah, I think that, as I said, Papua New Guinea will just have that advantage, go on, get that win, and win the Pacific Bowl. But now we'll go over to, I guess you can say, the main event of all of it is that Pacific Cup. It is Samoa, Tonga, and the legendary New Zealand. See, I called you legendary, and I also called New Zealand that. You're on the same level as the New Zealand rugby league team. Okay, so this one should be this just general tournament has been very good. We've seen Samoa come very close to being New Zealand in that first round. Then in the second round, it was Tonga who actually kind of got blown out the park by Samoa, which is a bit surprising. So we did know there was that lightning delay that happened, which was for a very long time, and very hurt streamers like yourself trying to stream, and then it stopped your entire plans for the rest of the day. But now we do go into that final game, which is Tonga versus New Zealand. And obviously Samoa, they have an advantage here. They're going into the final already. So really, it's just to see who goes into the final now. But Tonga need to win by 18 points. What's your thoughts? Do you think this will happen?
The short answer is no. I think I would have found it a little bit difficult to tip Tonga anyways coming into this game. They can absolutely beat New Zealand. There's no question about that. But doing it by 18 points, that is a very tough ask in Auckland. New Zealand just have a heap of quality, and the key is consistent quality. I've spoken before about how I think Tonga are very, very good at developing brilliant forwards, very good at developing brilliant backs, but the spine is the key. And while they've got a premier halfback in there, they don't really have ready-made positional players at hooker, 5'8", and fullback. All three of the guys who are playing there in Havili, Iongi, and Hopewadi are sort of, like at club level, they all sort of play different positions than the ones they're being asked to here. And I think that will be a very key difference.
Yeah, I feel like in short I can say, so I am going for New Zealand because for those who don't know, I do have family on my mum's side from New Zealand, so I could definitely go a little soft spot for them. But yeah, by beating New Zealand out of all teams by 18 points would be a very hard job to do, and I do think Tonga have a very good chance of winning this game, putting in effort, and obviously I'd love to see all the teams go on and get a win, but yeah, to be honest, I see them winning, but I don't see them to go on and beat New Zealand by 18 points. I see them maybe beating them by like 6 or 7. My bad. Yeah, okay. I see your disappointment face. I just had
no.
Podcast ended. Done. No. Okay.
Not having it.
Maybe 4 or 6 points. I see that being very, very close to Tonga able to win. Don't even see New Zealand beating Tonga by 18 points. That's really just how close the Pacific Cup is, especially without Australia this year because they're off to the Ashes. And yeah, so if it is what we're expecting, Samoa to take on New Zealand in that Pacific Cup final, do you have someone who you think? Obviously, you can say New Zealand's the favourite, but do you think they'd be able to do it?
Look, either of those sides very, very well matched against each other. I get the feeling, I don't know if that's me falling in love with the narrative of it, but how cool would it be to see Samoa beat New Zealand in the final after New Zealand beat them in round 1 of the tournament? I think that'd be so cool. We saw them sort of do it in 2021 where England smashed them at the start of the World Cup and then they came through and knocked them out in the semi-final. Would be a nice little bit of symmetry if Samoa could do it there.
Yeah, fair enough. I think New Zealand will just have a little bit of an edge in this one, but yeah, Samoa can definitely do some crazy work. But now we just talk about the Pacific Championships. It's time to talk about, arguably, if you don't count the World Cup, is the biggest event in international rugby league. you can argue about a whole bunch of stuff, but the rivalry between Australia and England is something that has gone on for eternity. In cricket, in all sports, rugby, football, like genuinely all of them, there's always this rivalry, and it's always great to watch. And I'm very happy that Rugby League are going in and actually having an Ashes series. So yeah, well, quickly we can talk a little bit about the first game and then a bit of a preview for that second one. Obviously, the first game was at Wembley. I know you for some reason stayed up to watch it, which is very impressive. But yeah, let's hear from your opinions on this game.
Yeah, look, it was one where I copped certainly a lot of criticism initially because of my controversial comments on the Bloke podcast saying that I wanted England to win despite being an Australian. But look, it was disappointing to see. England are a lot better than what they showed, certainly, but you're only as good as your last performance. And certain plays, such as Jack Wellesby, allowing Angus Crichton to score, without really any resistance, was very difficult to defend. I said that England came in terms of a selection game plan, looking to absorb Australia's pressure early and hope that would get them over the line. And they kind of did. Like, the first half was only 8-0 and the Kangaroos scored off a forward pass. But realistically, by the back end of that game, the physicality was worlds apart. So England have a massive mountain to climb to get back into this series.
Yeah, I think obviously as someone who is not too much, like, I really haven't watched much international rugby league, well, except for this year, and a lot of people all across Australia, all rugby league fans, wouldn't even know that a lot of these teams would even compete. Obviously, they would know stuff that England and Australia compete, but a lot of them wouldn't even know about the England team. I do believe there are 4 NRL players on that England team, which is probably the only 4 players that most common Australian NRL fans would know who they are. So it's a great story to see if England were able to go on and get a shock win. At least, I don't think they'll win the Ashes. I don't think anyone will. But just a story for them to go on, especially if they can do it in Game 2, climb that mountain and shock the world by making it 1-1 would just be amazing. But back to more of the players. On the Australian side, Reece Walsh, I swear, every single time I watch this man, he improves. He looks even better. And I think he played quite well in that first game. I do believe he scored a try, I think so. I think I'm correct. Don't have any notes with me, I probably should have. But yeah, Reece Walsh, he is a major key for Australia. And I know there's a lot of speculation saying before the Ashes, is he ready enough to do it? I think so. He just was a key part of the Broncos winning the premiership. So, yeah, and I think he'll have a great game in Game 2, which is played at Everton's new stadium. League, do you know what the name of that stadium is again?
Hill Dickinson Stadium, it's called.
Yeah, so it's more, as you've said previously to me, it's more of a more rugby league area than what it was in London, where they played at Wembley, which is also a little bit of a thing because it's like how many people is going to come to Wembley. Obviously, you can fit around 90,000. It got 60,000, which is much better. When it would look more on an embarrassment of the international game if we saw some like 20,000, 15,000. Like, that's low-level Titans numbers in the NRL. So, well, Titans are much lower, but I'm just trying to give my best example here. And for obviously this is a new podcast, but if you know the channel, I just roast the Titans all the time. So if you're a Titans fan, I'm unfortunate to you, bro. Unfortunate. The one of you out there. I know there's one. There has to be one. There's one. Okay.
Poor Titans fans, bro. Copping strays. That's disgraceful. But no, look, you rightly point out. Look, it's up in Liverpool, which I wouldn't describe Liverpool as rugby league heartland. But the key is that the towns around it, Wigan, St Helens, Warrington, that kind of part of England, that's the heartland. So we should see a very good crowd up there, and a crowd where they're truly passionate, truly willing to support England hard. I think in London, a lot of the fans would have been travelling Australians or potentially even just general tourists in London who go to Wembley just to see the thing that happens to be on. So Yeah, I think that it could be a much tougher task for Australia. But really, when you talk about guys like Reece Walsh, who you mentioned earlier, I don't know if England have an answer for him.
Yeah, obviously, as an Australian, obviously I've got part British blood, but I want Australia to go and win this. But as you said, for the better rugby league, yeah, England winning would be better. But in my ideal scenario, I would love England to win this second game, really bring it close for that third game, but then Australia to go and win. But I feel like if Australia do go on to win the second game, England have a good chance of winning the third game. Now, for the rugby union fans out there, obviously the Wallabies took on the British and Irish Lions recently. That was quite a close one in that second game. The Lions, though, ended up going 2-0 up after 2 games, winning the series. But actually saw the Australian Wallabies team go on in that third game. They're basically the underdogs. They're versing Wales, Scotland, England, Ireland, all those guys combined. So they're the underdogs going into it, and they were able to win that third and final game at a core, ruining that party for England. And I feel like this could be kind of the opposite, but inside of rugby league, where England go on to shock Australia in that final game. But yeah, that's still stuff that has a very low chance of happening, because you probably, if you're going to bet on it, Australia to take it 3-0 is basically what is most thought of what's going to really happen.
Yeah, and one of the reasons why I said what I said on the Bloke podcast is that I knew that if the first game went the way it did, the hype for the series would just die down completely. And even look at, say, Maddie the Waterboy, who on that first podcast I did, said not only that he nearly fell out of his chair when he heard the news, but that it made him want Australia to win by even more. He came in the week after and off air said, I had a thought about what you said, and while I don't agree, I understand why you said it and where you're coming from. And that's exactly, what I'm getting at. For the series itself, it needed an England win. England could potentially get this win up at Everton and, have a brilliant final game, but we'll see how we go. I'm not completely convinced that that's going to happen.
Yeah. Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about is, yes, it is still International Rugby League related, but it's a bit more on your side. So for you guys who are not a fan of the league, which is surprising, you guys obviously should be a fan of the wonderful man in the green blazer. But look, he had a recent video where he interviewed the head coach of the Ukraine International Rugby League side, and it was a touching video for a lot of fans out there. We know what... unless you've lived under a rock in the last couple of years, we know what Ukraine have gone through, and what was in that interview in League's video, he really just showed us what they went through, family in danger and dying, going off to serve their country and still persevering, going through it all, and playing for Ukraine in rugby league, a sport that so many people don't even know it's outside of Australia. People genuinely, I know multiple people who think it's only in Australia, England, and New Zealand are the only teams who play it. Some of them kind of know Pacific Championship, but no one knows about these European nations who do it. We saw in football, I believe FIFA banned Russia and Ukraine and their teams and UEFA as well from competing in different tournaments. I think I can double check that, but I'm pretty sure there was a time when that was. So for rugby league to be something that Ukrainian players can go to and persevere through all the stuff that's happening and play, it's just amazing. So tell us through the experience, really, why you wanted to make the video, how was it talking to the head coach of the Ukraine national team, and just anything else you want to say.
Yeah, it was an incredibly humbling experience. I mean, they reached out to me, the Ukrainian Federation. They DM'd me on Instagram, and I guess just to be recognized for being someone who will cover that story, but not only cover it, but do a good job of covering it. I was very flattered and very humbled to cover the story itself. I mean, geez, throughout the interview, and even while editing, there were times where I genuinely had to sit back and process what I'd just been told. The fact that there were players who 2 weeks after their mum had been killed in a missile attack on their apartment are then playing for the national side. Others who have, left their brothers in arms at the front line, which is a whole mental thing in itself.
Yeah.
It was bizarre. And never something that I thought I would end up covering when I started making YouTube videos. But I had a little bit of a mini crash out at the end, and basically said that I don't feel that I should be the one to cover these stories, just because I am a 23-year-old who makes YouTube videos in his university dorm room. You've got out there legacy media institutions with full-time reporters, with connections, with all the infrastructure in place. They should be covering these stories. They should be giving these stories the platforms, because I mentioned at the end, nothing against Chanel Harris-Tavita, but why are we talking about where Chanel Harris-Tavita is going to be in 2027 when there's sacrifices, incredible storylines happening elsewhere in the rugby league world? It was really quite truly remarkable, and I'm glad with how the video turned out. I think it was very, very good. And I advertised myself when I first started as someone who will do the stories that other people don't really want to do because I don't care about clicks, and that's sort of ringing true, I suppose, with that video.
Yeah, it was beautiful. Who would have thought that rugby league would be played in Ukraine? And it's just such a beautiful story. And you must be, like, you came through a long way as well. Like, genuinely, your YouTube career, now you're getting asked from literally the Ukraine rugby, the rugby league, I don't know what it was, management or something like that, for you to cover this story, and you get the chance to interview. And I do agree, I think you made an amazing video, but we should start seeing these guys on Fox. Where's Fox talking about how Jet Cleary did in Ukraine? I wanna wake up to see, or find out if Netherlands beat Ukraine or the score like that. I feel like it'd be cool, you know. And then also, like, I know a lot of these games you can watch them on free and stuff on YouTube, so it's just a good opportunity for people of rugby, just the rugby league community space, to get around it. So yeah, I think I can say this like 100 times, but yeah, your video was amazing. You're very lucky to get that opportunity, but I felt like you were the perfect person to get the opportunity and talk about it, because you made some very good points in that video. But did you guys talk about Jet Cleary? How about that? Was Jet Cleary mentioned once while you were when you were talking? Because his story
Certainly.
his story, like, obviously, he's not leaving his brother in arms in the army. He didn't have a family member that died because of the war. So, but what, in a different side of it, Jet Cleary, I made an entire video on this here on YouTube, and it's one of my best I've ever made. I think it's the best I've ever made. Views count, it's not the best that's been most viewed, but generally, it's one of my favourites I've ever made. I've told the story of Jet Cleary's career. Look, Jet could just be following the footsteps of Nathan Cleary. He could just be Nathan Cleary's little old shadow, little old best friend. But he's done his own thing. He's gone to the wars. He's made a name for himself. And he decided, you know what, I could keep training. I could keep training the wars. Maybe eventually get that opportunity to play for Australia. Can he play for New Zealand? I feel like, no, maybe.
I don't believe so. I
think there's some sort of one family member or something from New Zealand. But anyway, he could be training with the Wars, hoping the next season, even pushing to eventually get in maybe the younger Australian sides, or or just even that main Australian side. That's probably a big goal for a lot of NRL players. But for him to go, yeah, you know what? I'm going to go play international rugby league over in Ukraine against Netherlands and Rugby Club Octopus, where it was a great moment. I feel like if you're just an NRL player, going over to a place like that, it would be very different, and it'd be a good experience for them, because they kind of just something different, you know, just playing rugby league for a nation that would kind of need the help of bigger players to make it actually become big there, really. So you did nod when, and really said yes when I did ask, did you talk about him? Any specific thing you talked about him? Because I don't think in the video mentioned him at all, but did he say anything about how he was as a player, his mentality, stuff like that?
So I'll start by saying the note of his link to New Zealand, he was actually born in Auckland while Ivan was playing for the Warriors. So that might mean that he can play for New Zealand. I need to revise my eligibility rules. But we spoke about Jet in sort of the segue to the sacrifices that the domestic players made. Because I had mentioned the fact that Jets had, he starts in New Zealand 1 week, flies to Sydney to play the New South Wales Cup Grand Final, flies back to New Zealand, then flies back to Sydney again to play the State Cup Grand Final, back to New Zealand, then back to Sydney in order to fly across to the Netherlands. That's all in the space of about a week and a half. That's insane.
Yeah.
Whilst playing, very high level rugby league for the Warriors. So that was a level of sacrifice that was pretty astounding. But then you've obviously got the sacrifice of the domestic Ukrainian players, which puts that all into a bit of context and perspective. But one thing that's, to be fair, I can't really remember what made the video and what didn't. There was a lot of good stuff that had to be cut out because I didn't want the video to be literally 40 minutes long. But Dan Beardshaw, the coach of Ukraine, spoke a lot about the extent to which the heritage players and domestic players would mix together, and how they had a real big, genuine culture that everyone bought into of them being a Ukrainian team. They're not a split of Australians and Ukrainians. They are one team. And talking about how you've got Jet literally talking to these players who play for often, the smaller Ukrainian domestic clubs, and just talking about drills that they can do, talking about very basic structures that they can implement. And you then get these domestic guys able to take that knowledge back to their club. So you've actually literally got this flow of expertise straight through the Warriors to Ukrainian rugby league. That's great. And that's something where the international game benefits so much from that. So, yeah, Dan Beardshaw couldn't speak more highly of Jets. And in fact, he even said that Nathan has pretty much said to the Ukrainian Rugby League Federation, if there's a year that I'm not selected for Australia, I'll come over and play for Ukraine.
Wow.
Even had Ivan, who was at their game in Udine in Italy recently. So the Clearys are really getting around Ukrainian Rugby League. You've got Hudson Young, also eligible. So it's very, very good to see.
Yeah, big advancements for rugby league over in other nations. Man, that's actually really cool you said that. I don't think there would be really anyone who would know that Nathan is actually interested in playing for Ukraine, and that's really cool, man. I would love to see Nathan, if he doesn't get selected, to go play for Ukraine, and I feel like, no offense to Nathan, but that could be happening definitely in the next few years. We've seen some really great talent. You know what? I think with Jet, we'll finish the stuff off with Jet. This story, maybe it's not up there with the stories of these other Ukrainian players, but it's still a great one coming from a family of very famous rugby league players and kind of just doing his own thing, It's good. It's really good to see. Obviously, I'll put it in the description so everyone listening or watching could check out that video. And Jet he is someone who I'd love to come on. He is the highest of people I would love to come on. And hopefully I can try and build that, and eventually that goal can be complete, because I think having just a one-on-one chat with him would be amazing, to really just find more details about how it is being Nathan Cleary's brother and just doing his own thing, being in New Zealand, stuff like that. But yeah, that was actually really cool to know. I find that really cool still. Okay, so now we're going to do a little thing with the NRL international jerseys. And these are all based on the ones behind you. Well, the kits maybe are slightly different, but as you can see, there are 8 behind you. Yes, 8 jerseys behind you. And we're just going to go pretty simple. We're going to do a little ranking here of our favourite NRL or international jerseys. So we're going to start off with 8th place. I'm going to say mine, a little reason. Then the league will do the exact same. And we'll just do the same throughout until we get to number 1. Then we might have a little bit of a debate on some decisions that were made. But I guess I can start this one with number 8, which I believe is Papua New Guinea. I'd rather a red base over a red. Well, obviously, they played in the Prime Minister's side when they versus Australia. They played in red with a yellow stripe. I personally like that better than the current one they got, which is yellow with a red stripe. So that's kind of why I put them there. It's also a bit more basic compared to the other jerseys.
Yeah, I actually agree with you on that, and it's absolutely nothing to do with Papua New Guinea and rugby league. I've said for a long time, I think that they're the best fans in the world. But it's just such a hot field when you look at the international jerseys out there this year, and they do have a very simple design. So I'm pretty comfortable having them there in 8th.
Okay, 7th place for me is England. Now, if this was their away kit, that would be very high up. I love their away kit with the red poppy design into it. But yeah, it's pretty simple from England. You know what? England are always white. They might have a little bit of dark blue, a little bit of red. But yeah, it's just normally a plain white kit. And nothing bad about it. Like, generally, all these kits are really good. So that's why I kind of put them there.
Yeah, I think this could surprise some people. I'll go Australia. Again, it's a very hot field, and I think Australia does what it does quite well. But fundamentally, it is a simple green and gold design. It's nice that it's got 2 V's on the front, but really there's not a heap of detail to it when you compare it to a number of the Pacifica jerseys.
Yeah, well, my number 6 is Australia, and I do agree with the decisions what you've just said, and it's also just the same from last year, with just a different side sleeve sponsor. But yeah, it's the classic green and gold, so I kind of had to put it a bit higher up than some other jerseys. But yeah, that's my 6th place.
Yeah, and for sort of exchanging teams, I'll go England for me in 6. It is, a more simple design. We spoke earlier off air about the fact that England Rugby Union is sort of white with the red poppy. England football is white with like the blue 3 lions. This one kind of incorporates a little bit of red, a little bit of blue, but fundamentally stays white. And I said before that I think that there's a number of England jerseys over the course of my lifetime that I would describe as stinkers. But this one is probably quite up there in terms of being quite good.
Yeah, like for the one behind you, so at the very top, you can kind of see it. Obviously the green light's there, but it's kind of got like the downwards arrow. I don't know what year that is. Would you remember what year that would be? It's
I think that was the 2021 World Cup. Maybe you could see it more clearly now.
Yeah,
I've got rid of the green light.
It was not the best one, but yeah. Okay, so we'll go on. That was 6th place, right? So we're going on to the top 5, and we've left out all the Pacific Championship nations basically. So for my number 5 is going to be Fiji. There's nothing wrong with the Fiji kit. It's really nice. It's the black, and then it's got the light blue, which represents that really just coming from their flag. Obviously, we do see in 7s. I don't know, not too sure about Union, but definitely in 7s they have red, white with a bit of black. But I do think this is just quite the cool design, just with the black and the light blue from their flag on the Fiji jersey.
Yeah, and I'll go with Toa Samoa. Now, this is really starting to get into the jerseys that I love, and it feels criminal to pick them this low. But there's just so many other really, really good ones. Sorry, my phone is ringing. I'll turn that off. Yeah, there's so many other really, really good ones out there. And while Samoa has a very nice little design on it with the V with the Pacifica sort of patterns, there's a lot of other clubs, other countries that have done it, and I think that they do it maybe slightly better.
Okay, so now we go on to the top 4. Now, if you look to the right of the league, 3 of those nations haven't been picked, and there's one on the left which hasn't been picked. So, really, this is where it all comes really close to me. I'm going to pick Samoa for number 4. Similar reasons as you. It's a very good kit. It's very good. There's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, I just think these kits are just a bit better.
Yeah, and I'll go with New Zealand. I'm sort of in 2 minds about how they often have the white V on the front of the jersey, and I think that they've implemented that with varying success over the years. But right now, the pure black chevron with sort of the shiny, glossy design and a Maori sort of undertone in the patterns and geometry. Very, very cool. Love to see it. Only issue is that on TV it does just sort of look black, but that's sort of difficult to get around.
Yep. Okay, now for really the biggest of the biggest, I guess you could say it for most of these jerseys, because they are very good, and I think international jerseys are very good throughout. They do a very good job with them. So for my number 3 is going to be New Zealand. Now, I do agree with some of the points you've made with on TV looking a bit just full on black. But for me, it looks a bit more of like a black and the silver most of the time for me when I'm watching these international games, which I quite like. Obviously, we've seen a little teaser of the Penrith Panthers 60 years badge. That is black and silver. silver on it. It's made us think, oh, they're going to have black and silver on their kit. And that could be actually similar colours, similar type thing that New Zealand are currently doing. But yeah, that's kind of a whole nother conversation. I think it genuinely is a really good kit. But I do think I might rather the white V or the double white V, whichever one they really want to do, over this one this year. But yeah, I still really like it.
Yeah, and I'll go with Fiji Bati. High up in number 3. I've said before that that color scheme of black and dark blue, it's very famous in terms of world sport. You've got Inter Milan in Serie A. You've got like the Carolina Panthers. There's a number of teams that have sort of incorporated that as their scheme. But it's not really represented that much in rugby league. There's not really Super League clubs that have it as such, and certainly none in the NRL. So it's nice to see that brought through to rugby league, and you've got the beautiful Pacifica designs on the chevron. Stunning.
Okay, now it's time for the top 2. Really yet to see who ends up winning it. So I feel like, just so it's that, I'm just going to say my first and second, give my reason, and then you knew your first and second. So the second place for me is Tonga, with first place being the Cook Islands. Now, Tonga have done an amazing job. The red is really nice with the white V, which has those designs on it as well, so that's another cool aspect of it. Also, you see the sponsors being in gold, which just really fits really well on the jersey. Just a really good jersey overall. But number 1 had to be Cook Islands for me. And now a lot of people have said that there's a bit too much design on the jersey, but I think it's really good. I think the green and that yellow little detail, well, not too little, but the details on that jersey is really nice and one of my favourites, and a jersey I'm considering to pick up, hope maybe even before the Pacific Cup final, because we'd be seeing the Cook Islands take on South Africa in a World Cup qualifier. So yeah, I'm very excited to see them play with that jersey on, and that's why it's my number 1.
Yeah, well, and then we've got the same top 2, but in a flipped around order. I love the Cook Islands jersey, but I do have it in at number 2. I think that when you look up close, it is quite busy. I quite like that personally when it comes to graphic design. But it sort of works as well from a distance on TV, because the patterns amalgamate into, just individual colors, and then it works really well in that sense as well. I think it leans into a lot of Pacifica designs, and I think that's something that's a unique selling point to rugby, whether it be league or union. I think it's something that we should lean into more in terms of international marketability. But then in top spot, it's got to be Tonga. I think that a fair part of this is just that on top of everything you said, which I agree with, it's the connotations in my mind. It's the fact that that Tongan jersey, the red with the white V, will always represent the turning point of international rugby league. Yeah. When Jason Taumalolo and Andrew Fafita said, we're not going to play for Australia and New Zealand, we're going to represent Matema Atonga at the 2017 World Cup. And that was an incredible moment. I will truly never forget it. So it is very good for me in that sense. You've then got the Pacifica design on the V as well. And it is a colour that isn't necessarily well represented in rugby league. We've got a lot of white and red teams like the Dragons, St Helens, Wigan, but not really ones that are more red dominant. The Dolphins a little bit. Yeah. They've sort of come along, but that's quite recently. And it is a callback to one of my favourite jerseys of all time. In fact, I think my favourite jersey, which was, I believe, 2017, the Roosters wore like a dominant red jersey. You could put it up on screen. I sent you the photo of it before. It looks a lot like that to me. I would love to see the Roosters lean into that red more. So it's nice to see Tonga doing it. Yeah,
mate, absolutely read my mind. It was something I was about to mention. So I'll kind of repeat what I've said off camera before. That is, with the Dolphins, they're starting to go back to a bit more the Redcliffe Dolphins Queensland Cup style, where we did see a heritage kit from them this season, which is red, but also has I think 2 white V's on the jersey, and then obviously there's the England kit, which is fully red with the little poppy designs and stuff, and then to that Roosters kit you're talking about, I think it's probably one of my favourite Roosters kits I've seen. I completely agree with you. I really do like the red, and they should bring it back definitely as an away kit. Now, we did talk a little bit about, you got some news. Would you like to share just a little thing?
Let's not go as far as to call it news, but yes, you asked me on the last recording we did how many Roosters jerseys I owned, and I alluded to the fact that I haven't actually bought a Roosters jersey in a few years. I've stopped growing, and so I haven't needed to replace my jerseys as much. But I certainly will be buying some next year because although it hasn't been announced, and I'm not going to give away anything, but the manufacturer who's making our kits is one of my favorites in the world. So I'll certainly be copping some Roosters jerseys this year, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm excited to see. All the content creators, it's good. I think that's something you could talk about for ages. Is that the content creators are starting to get more like clubs and the NRL itself. It's starting to appreciate them a bit more. Like, literally. So, who came to you? Did the Roosters or the manufacturer came to you?
Neither, actually. No, this is something that I've heard from other creators.
Oh, okay.
But little leaks have come out, and so some people might know what I'm talking about. But yes, I've heard it through the grapevine of Roosters creators.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe that was their purpose. Send it out through there and, send it to you. So would this is a new manufacturer then? Because obviously, yeah.
Yeah, it's not Castor, which is who we've gone with for a while. So we are changing manufacturer.
Yeah, obviously we are seeing a bit more these guys coming in. We're seeing Under Armour coming in for Canberra. Fortunately, they're not going to show too much with this first season just because they the 2-year cycle with the jerseys. So I'm excited to see what they'll be able to bring when they bring in their very own jersey for the 2027 season. But yeah, that's some really exciting stuff. But now we are starting to get to the bit of the end, but we're going to do a bit of some rapid fire type stuff. So we're going to start off with something I call keep or bin, and this is with some of the newest stuff we found out, which includes the Penrith Panthers new badge for 60 years, and obviously the Manly jerseys, the new Manly badge for the 80 years, and all stuff like that. So let's begin this whole new thing, keep or bin. We're going to start this one off with the Penrith Panthers 60-year badge. What do you think, keep or bin?
Well, keep while it's relevant. I think at the end of this year, definitely bin it. They did an okay job with getting all the different histories of the Penrith logos involved. Some bits were achieved a bit better than others, but I think especially if their kit has a bit more silver accents on it, then it's going to make it a really cool logo.
Okay, before we go into the Manly kits, the Manly logo, obviously we've seen a bit of that from the new jersey. Now, before you say, I'm going to keep it because of the 80 years, it's obviously been that. But now to reassure, we'll change this up for this one specifically. If you say keep, that means they keep it the same. If you say bin, they will remake just a new Manly one for 80 years. So would it still be keep or bin?
They did a very simple job of it. Look, I still think keep. I think what they did was fine. Could it have been better? Maybe. I would have maybe liked to have seen them lean more into the sort of traditional big eagle that they had up until a couple of years ago. But I understand that because they quite recently changed the logo, it might not be the best idea to go back to that more complicated eagle so soon.
Yeah, and then you see all the Manly fans like, you should bring this back. And then you kind of wasted the logo, haven't you, if you bring it for, a season or two, and then people just want the other one, and it just goes back to being that. Okay, so now to the Manly home jersey for 2026. There's a very obvious choice here. Keep or bin?
Keep.
Yeah.
I think it's quite beautiful. I'm a big fan of it. I think it's a beautiful callback. I think it's done very well, very tastefully, and I am a sucker for anything with a collar. So it does that very, very well.
Okay, the Manly away kit. This is easy keep, surely.
Yeah, that as well. I mean, I have said keep for everything. Can you tell I quite like rugby league? But yeah, it's very nicely done. It is quite similar to the home kit, but I like the fact that most Manly away kits recently have been white with the maroon stripes, and this leans into that quite well. There's not that much I would change about it, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I would agree with all of your decisions so far, except for the first one. I would actually rather them try and make maybe a bit of a different Penrith one. I'm not too much of a fan of it, but I guess maybe it's just that it's a really simple shield design. Okay, now this might not be it's not new news at all, but I want your very loud opinion on this. You're going to either shout keep or bin. The new Rugby League World Cup teams limit, like the amount of teams that can compete. Keep or bin?
Bin. If anyone has watched my content, you know how I feel about that. I made 3 videos
You went
I've
on the
never made
radio,
3
didn't
videos
you?
about anything,
You went on the radio.
but I made 3 videos.
Radio.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I was very, very passionate about that. And when you look at, say, Ukraine, we were speaking earlier. I remember while making that video, I found an image from, I think, 2021, where the Ukrainian national team were all posing together in their kits, and it had written at the top, target World Cup 2026. That now won't happen.
Yeah.
So, that's the kind of storyline that we're potentially being robbed of.
Yeah, knock on the door, try and get them to do that. Bro, I would love to see these teams, Netherlands, Ukraine. Ukraine definitely have the possibilities to doing that. I think they have, especially then get Nathan Cleary in when he's a bit more on the downside of his career. I think it's just a great opportunity. But that is it. That is finally over. Now, for you guys, hopefully you enjoyed. Me and the league have been here for a long time. We've seen some ups and downs, but I really do hope you enjoyed, and thank you so much for the league. I'll put a whole bunch of videos in the description if you are watching this on YouTube, so you can check out all of those, which include the league's bloke in the bar, both of them, and his newest video on Ukraine, my video on Jet Cleary, and just a whole bunch of stuff. I've got a whole bunch of stuff more to come soon. Episode 2 is going to be next week on Friday, but then after that it's just going to be every 2 weeks on Friday. I'll try and figure out a time and communicate that out. So if you're on YouTube, you can go into the description and join the Discord, where I'll be putting a whole bunch of announcements for different episodes. But with that, thank you all so much for listening or watching. I really appreciate it. Make sure to subscribe if you are on YouTube, and just share this podcast with your friends, because this is something I really would love to do. And yeah, big thank you to the league. Round of applause. League, anything to say before we end off?
Viva Rugby League.
Well, that's how we end it. See you guys in the next one. Goodbye.